Hoof it long. Why are we passing it round at back? Get it long. You're just giving ball away. Why don't they find feet? Well, you can't do hoofing it long and finding feet. That's not, nobody does that. And everything was like proving him right. See, I said they should do that. You never fucking did. I've sat here and listened to you constantly talk for 90 minutes. You didn't say they should do that. You said a lot of shit, including some vaguely racist stuff.
That's the cold open, Rich.
Welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Richard Miller, and my co-host, something. How do we do this again? Dr. Luke Gledall. How are you doing today, Luke?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah. I mean, it's weird. This is what I would describe as a normal recording weekend for us, in that I've been to the match. You've managed to watch a stream, and we're now talking about it. But we've had longer of not normal than normal now, and it's a very long time since we did a normal.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Been a hot minute since it was normal.
A hot minute. One of the hotter minutes that you can think of. Because last time back at Hillsborough was the FA Cup game, which was the 4th of March 2020, and the last league game would have been a win against Charlton on the 26th of February.
Were you there for that one, Rich?
I'm not sure, with it being a midweek match during a pretty poor run of form. I think I was almost definitely there for the tonking by Reading, the 3-0 drubbing that we got from Reading on the Saturday, 15th. But but people back at Hillsborough, 24,000 or thereabouts of us in fine fettle and voice. Nary a mask to be seen, really, to be honest. I think people have just decided to pretend that nothing's happened and nothing's happening. And to an extent, I just cannot blame people, to be honest. But yeah, so it means we're in the position of back to I've been at my regular throne near the top of the cop. Didn't have my sister alongside me, who's subject to most of my mutterings and utterings during a match in real time. She's still on a lovely sunny holiday, but she'll be back at Hillsborough this week as well on Tuesday. But no, it's got to be said, it's nice to be back. Nice to see folks again, and a bit of a whiff of BO, the odd fart smell. These are things that you oddly miss from your match day experience. Queuing for far too long to get a warm Coke Zero. I don't like Coke Zero, but that's the only thing they have that doesn't have sugar in. Yeah, all those things and more. And a chance to see this new look Wednesday side in their kit that has got too much white and not enough blue on it.
Yep, and uneven stripes. Yep.
Oh.
Anyway, are you getting ahead of yourself, Rich? Because
I am slightly. You're right there, Luke.
You've let the occasion get away with you.
Yeah, the revelry of
doing the thing that we thought we would be doing at the beginning of when we started this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. How dare we think that, everything be a continuation of modern life, just as it stands? Really shoved it up our poopers, didn't it, Rich?
It did. It really made fools of us and our stupid conclusions that we leapt to, thinking that life might be normal and okay. News-wise, we should probably do a little bit of talk there. So let's do the old drop.
Breaking hoo-hoos.
So another signing.
Yeah, and one that did we even mention that this was kind of linked about the time, or was it kind of breaking around the time we were doing recording?
It seemed to sort of break and happen in a pretty short order.
Right, a bit like Corbino, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
Kept distinctly under wraps, and then it may well be it sort of got mentioned like a Sunday night or a Monday night, and then it was anyway
ruined, realized, and breaking and in our faces the next day, right? Which seems to be. Did most of our announcements seem to now come about 3:00 or
maybe? Yes. So
there seemed a lot between 3 and 5 p.m. GMT that seemed to kind of pop out, or BST, I guess, to be very technical about these things. But it was weird because I think maybe it's because I feeling like I've spoken to you about this, or maybe I thought, like I cognitively sat down and thought what I was going to say to you when I heard the rumors, or just came across my mind in a kind of weird kind of mini rehearsal for a conversation that never happened. But like when I saw his name being linked, I was like, are we really going to sign someone else? It felt like we'd really done our business. It felt really like we were waiting for that last kind of piece to put in the jigsaw puzzle, and that was number 9, Lee Gregory. So I really didn't have any expectations of anyone else kind of signing.
No.
Let alone, especially after like we had that, I was there being like, well, I'm really hopeful I get the things that I want, but it feels like we can't have nice things most of the time.
No.
And that we're largely living in a sense of kind of footballing poverty. So, if I yank on the corner of Mr. Chansiri's jacket and say, please, Papa Chansiri, can we have some defensive cover? Then that would have been denied. And then Louis Gibbo came in, which was unexpected because that was post Lee Gregory, because it feels like the last piece in the puzzle is always a striker. It's always the bit that's the hardest to get. It's always the bit that the deal seems to get a bit longer. There seems to be other contingencies and things that need to fall into place with other clubs before, that's someone who they let go. So I wasn't really expecting any more business. And then the name of Sylla Sow came up, and I just thought this was just really the world of newspaper rumors.
And then surprise.
Yes.
so we signed him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, to be fair to Darren, I think Darren Moore has sort of said we're still looking, and I don't think Darren Moore's sort of said we're done at any stage yet. It's intriguing because I think we've got at least 2 positions for wide players.
Which now, what are you going to say now? You're going to say Green, Johnson, Corbino, and Sow?
But then I don't know what that means for Windass, where Windass is seen to be playing.
Right.
It's intriguing. I mean, he looks like from the 2-minute YouTube video I've seen of him, he really looks a talent.
But alas, that is a 2-minute YouTube video. But I think I did also a bit like you. I think I did share a bit of your kind of YouTube enthusiasm for him.
Yeah, not youthful enthusiasm, YouTube enthusiasm.
Exactly.
I've just noticed. I'm looking at his record just to kind of. So first off, he started his career at Quick 1888. So I don't know whether they're just all like it's like a club that marks itself out just by having little fast runners make up their ranks. But also, there's a mention that he made his debut for the Utrecht first team by replacing Irby Emanuelson. So
wow.
It's a Wednesday. There's a deep Wednesday tie to this young man's career. So there's been a bit of debate about who's making these signings, where these signings are coming from. And there's almost a temptation from people, I think, because Amadou Paxiao is the baddie by and large in the narrative of modern day Wednesday. There's almost a temptation people seem to have to kind of go, oh, we made a good signing. Well done, Darren Moore. Oh, we made a questionable signing. Bloody Paxiao getting his fingers in there again. So like, this one, in a way, does smack a little bit of some of those random players from abroad that we have seen previously, potentially. But he is young, seems to be quick. And he seems to add an option in an area of the pitch where maybe we do need another option.
And ticks that box of YouTube enthusiasm.
Those YouTube enthusiasm, which is one of the key things you're looking for on a signing nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting. And so we've also seen some moves the other way, which I feel like Wednesday fans would broadly welcome, and it's something I think I wonder why we've been so slow to move in this sort of way. But we've seen Alex Hunt going out on loan to Grimsby in the league below, and Ryan Galvin going to a conference. Is it Conference League? Is he in the top league that he's gone to? I forgot. He's gone to Gloucester.
Is it one of the Conference South or Conference North?
I think it might be, yeah.
Where the hell is Gloucester, Rich?
Well, the thing is, yeah, North and South is very relative, I think, in that regard. Oh, he's only gone for 1 month.
Mm-hmm. But I think they said that is as it stands, right? That's like initial 1 month.
Okay.
One. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I don't think most... I say it's relative because I think people in London think the North starts in Watford, and maybe at a push Northampton. It's in the name. But I would say probably for most people in the rest of the country, I would say that the North starts north of Birmingham. You've got to be above the Midlands, and therefore Gloucester is not the North, but Gloucester are in the National League North.
I would say kind of above Derbyshire, effectively.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I'd go as well if I was drawing I'd put that in the middle, but the waistband I think is probably somewhere a little bit south of there.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting on the hips of the UK. But any thoughts there really on those two and their?
I'm really glad we're going through with the prospects of getting these players out on loan, getting some experience, and seeing if they can develop a football career, whether it's at Sheffield Wednesday or whether it's elsewhere. There's a certain kind of care, and I think they're of a certain level where they're definitely players to go out and be tested at that level. So definitely for Galvin and Hunt as well, who are two of our more promising youngsters who are still in the books at Sheffield Wednesday.
Blue chip prospects.
Exactly, yeah. Blue chip prospects.
I don't really know what it means, but yeah. Just to correct myself, because pedantry is what podcasts are driven by. Grimsby are in the National League. They got relegated from League Two last season, so it's not the league below us. It's 2 leagues below us. But I'm really glad, particularly Alex Hunt. I'm really pleased to see him getting out on loan because I think we've really strengthened in his area of the pitch. I think I'd like to see probably on what we've seen of both players, I'd probably like to see a bit more of Fizeo Delibashiru in those moments when we're going to get a chance to kind of pop a youngster in there. I think I'd rather it be him than Alex Hunt, just because they're quite different sorts of players. So the fact that he can get out and hopefully just play as many games as possible, really at a lower level, I think that it can only be good for him, really. I mean, he looks so young. I know that's just a sort of facial thing, and he'll probably look young all his days. But I think he just needs to lose that sort of little boy feel to him, and sort of it would be nice to see him, go down to the National League and maybe come back having grown into himself a little bit more. Go to Grimsby and come back a man, as many before him have. Is this because they're youth loan type things? Is that the idea with this 1 month thing? I think we've had that in the past.
I think that's the idea. I think that's the expectation. Did you also see the stuff about Luke Jackson in the local media as well?
I've seen bits and pieces, but fill me in on the full picture.
There was some confusion because I think a lot of people kind of expected. I think even there was an announcement that Luke Jackson, our young goalkeeper, who previously we mentioned does have a squad number, but wasn't the young goalkeeper that we thought it was, and Josh Render has a squad number. They actually came on the official website and said, I think there was actually an announcement that Luke Jackson was going to go on loan.
Right, but then nothing came of it.
Then nothing came of it. Basically, it was announced by Geisley.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep, those people, AFC, that they confirmed to join him on a 1 month loan, but they since scrapped the story. So basically, I think they seem to look into the situation like the local media and said that Jackson had managed to kind of fall a little bit awkwardly. So they thought they'd kind of go ahead and kind of assess him
Okay.
before sending him out. I guess the interesting thing there is knowing that we've probably got a recall clause on Dawson. I imagine that's it. We've got a recall clause on Dawson, expecting Jackson to be the third goalkeeper at Sheffield Wednesday. I guess if that goes ahead, we kind of operate with two, I guess. We operate with BPF and Wildsmith.
Yeah,
And I guess if
interesting.
anything happens, then we yank one of us back to sit on the bench.
And he is a Yank as well.
Is Luke Jackson?
I believe he's American.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So it sounds like basically, yeah, he's tweaked something, and as long as he kind of responds to treatment, the move will go ahead as planned. But for the time being, they're rather sensibly waiting it out to see that he comes back okay. Which, yeah, fair dues to them. We've pushed ahead with signings that I don't know how they managed to pass medicals previously. So it's nice to see somebody being sensible and taking their time over things, not just acting in a mad hurry all the time. Anything else news-wise?
Oh, those are the big things, just a kind of an unexpected signing. And I think, as you said, like there's still kind of an expectation that people are, there could be more signings to come, which is just incredible. I feel like the squad is, I think, in my opinion, is pretty close to being done. It's nice to have another wide option and Sow coming in. There's also the rumors about Forest being interested in Liam Palmer.
Oh yes,
That's something that's kind of popping up again. I'd really hate to see Liam Palmer go.
I know. Yeah, because that's sort of, I suppose that's one of the things that one of those wide options might end up filling in at being a left back or being a left wing back more often if Palmer were to go. But I hope there's nothing in it really, because he's been such a great servant to the club, and I think we would miss him more than, I know he's sometimes a bit of a whipping boy for the boo boys at the club, but I think he's one of those players that we would miss more than people expect. Once it happens, which is interestingly sort of one of the things that happened with Jack Hunt. Really, I think generally people were quite kind of a proportion of the fan base were fairly happy to see the back of Jack Hunt, and then we didn't really have anything like a like-for-like replacement for him.
No.
And some of our attacking play, I think, really suffered as a result of losing him. And people probably discounted his contributions to that end of the pitch more often than not. So yeah, intriguing.
Do you think with Hunt leaving, initially that kind of made more of a target for Palmer, because Palmer was not particularly good getting forward? Previously, initially as a wingback, his attacking play left a lot to be desired, which seemed weird considering that he's effectively a converted centre mid, and seems to be quite comfortable and quite decent on the ball.
Well, I think he'd been kind of a box to box type really, in when he was coming through the ranks. I suppose it's not just being comfortable though on the ball, is it? When you are a defender, your mind has got to be on risk mitigation pretty much all the time, hasn't it?
I guess so, yeah.
And that probably holds you back in an attacking sense, because you're sort of like, well, the further I push forward, the bigger a door I'm leaving open behind me. And I don't know how wonderful his recovery pace is at all times, Palmer.
But I mean, it seems to have, I think the past kind of few seasons, we've really seen him being kind of really grown into that level of comfort. In that kind of position, and that position, but B, also the positions you get into in that position.
Yeah, his positioning's been fantastic. I think sadly his composure has been the thing that more often than not's been slightly underwhelming. he's been in positions to score goals.
Mm.
I know he added one more to his tally, but he really could have had several more of than the two he's got. If he was a bit more together in those big moments.
I guess there's a link to, from this point we're talking about here, to make a very kind of awkward little segue here for you, Rich. I think the thing I kind of think about, especially with Sheffield Wednesday, we signed Jaden Brown. We wondered whether Ryan Galvin was going to kind of mature into a first team choice or option for left back, and that hasn't really materialized. That hasn't really materialized for a bunch of our youngsters. I mean, I'm glad they're going out and getting experience and finding if they can kind of push their footballing career further, whether it's with Sheffield Wednesday or elsewhere. So I'm happy for the news of those two departures and the nearly third one for loan time, which is really good.
Yeah.
The thing I will say about that, though, does it speak to Liam Palmer's versatility that he can definitely is our option for a left back right now, or is that still just a damnation of a decent left back? Because I feel it kind of becomes like a glass half full, glass half empty, depending on who you ask. Like,
because that's, I mean, not to talk to sort of step on the toes of today's game too much, but there are drawbacks to having a right-footed player play left back, but then the things that Palmer brings to that position, he is generally quite a calm, cool head. He's got a decent turn of pace. He reads the game fairly well. He's fairly strong. He's kind of, I think across the board, he's a slightly above average player in so many areas. That's what adds to his versatility. And I think we've described him before on the podcast as a kind of 7 out of 10 guy, reliably putting in decent shifts for the side in lots of different positions. So it's intriguing whether that's the plan long term for Palmer to play left back. It seemed to be the plan under Bruce, if we can remember that far back. That seemed to be Bruce's first choice. Back four involved Palmer at left back. So that might be the preferred option. I also this definitely is stepping on the toes of today's game, but the most surprising thing to me was seeing Andre Green start again today, and I don't know how much more is trying to balance things by being fair to the players that the older players, giving them their chance to kind of stake a claim, and then before rotating them out of things as and when it's necessary.
Of course, saying that, I mean, the interesting thing is, and the really hilarious thing that kind of comes when we talk about players and options, as I mentioned, players wing options before. I'd completely forgotten about Shadipo. And also, as you picked up on me, I completely forgot about Josh Windass as well. So it's easy to kind of forget about players when they're not there, when they're not kind of, seemingly fit and available. Like the funny thing is kind of said, like, it's Darren Moore was saying, I think in the pre-match, saying, well, it's a clean bill of health. And then it's kind of like, well, you've, apart from Patterson and apart from Windass and apart from Shadipo. So you mean apart from the players that are injured, it's a clean bill of health?
Yeah, everyone's completely fit apart from the injured players.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think Patterson starting the first game is one of those where you're like, okay, is that the plan long term? We have signed a player and given them a number 9 shirt. So is it that Gregory is the first choice, but we're just sort of working our way to establishing that, or regardless of shirt numbers, is I think there's a lot of questions to be answered over the coming months, which is quite a nice place to be, because I think players are going to have to play for their position and earn their right to a shirt, which I think for too many positions for Wednesday over the last 3-4 years that's just not been the case. You know, you've got the shirt because you're the one that you're the one player in your position that's fit and able.
But that is very much, I would say, is very much the former of those two options that you said. Like, we're waiting until these players get fit enough to play the position we think that they should be playing, which I think is a starting position. We do have competition. I mean, if Patterson goes on an absolutely incredible run of form, who are any of us to besmirch him, you know?
Yes.
The kind of mock number 9 spot or whatever the heck he's going to play for Sheffield Wednesday. But, you know, it feels that way. Like, there's so many players we've got through the door, and it's like, well, they haven't really had a chance to, you know, the real surprise, I think, has been seeing as much of Canberra as we've had, knowing that he's a player who I think when he came off the bench against Charlton last week, barely trained. You know, it's pretty much a situation
later, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've come out of my quarantine from coming over to sign.
I think, did you say it was 2 days they'd been? Been out of, Thursday he'd got out of the quarantine hotel. It's pretty wild. Presumably there's something similar going on with Sylla Sow as well.
Yes.
So in terms of to kind of, I suppose, to sort of close off things with Palmer, I'd be very sad if Palmer goes.
Me too.
But I also wouldn't be huge, you know, if we decide over time that, say, Brown is a better left back or Gibson is a better left back, then that wouldn't hugely surprise me, and it also wouldn't. I wouldn't be sad to see Palmer go back to being our kind of first choice centre back on the bench kind of thing either. Although that's quite, you know, it's not a great position for him personally.
No.
No,
it's I think the sad nature, and I think that probably comes and brings us into like the lineup news today. Like, the nature of having such a big squad is that you're gonna have players who miss out. Like, I was disappointed to not see. I was really hoping Gregory would start.
Yeah.
You know, again, I think the situation is, I'm curious who's seeing what and who's also for the level of, maybe that's a slightly better thing that Moore is not being quite as knee-jerk as we think maybe he should be. That's probably a sign of a better kind of temperament and management. You know, the slow, methodical and meditational chewing of his toggles that Darren Moore has when he looks over this team is something to be revered and celebrated. But again, thanks to that, I mean, I was disappointed to not see Corbeanu start, and he was nowhere he wasn't even in the squad today.
Exactly. That's Corbeanu's out of the squad altogether. So's Deli Bashiru.
Yep.
We mentioned previously. But then that's gonna be the nature of things with this.
It almost becomes an odd blessing to see players get injured or players have niggles, because then it gives, and that will happen. I mean, that already has happened to a certain degree, right? But I don't know, maybe, you know, we hope that it doesn't happen enough but I mean, the upside of that is that you get to see some of the many, many wonderful signings that we've signed.
Well, I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? Like, some people thrive under that pressure of, this is my start, so I've got to make an impression. And some people shrink under that pressure. So we'll find out who the shrinking violets are, and we'll find out who the people who sort of really stamp their authority, stamp their claim on things are over time. But it's nice to have options. It seems strange to be in a position where we've got technically less players than we had last. You know, if we've let 16 go and we've got 12, 13 in.
But yeah, we still feel we have more options, right?
Now it feels like we've got options everywhere. And last season it felt like we didn't have anybody. And it was all bad options. You know, the first team were the best players. It just felt like almost every change we made weakened us. And it was obviously a time where you could make more subs, so the opposition weren't in that position more often than not. So we got weaker as the game went on, and they got better. And today, what we were able to do this is jumping miles ahead, but those are 3 very good changes we were able to make today, and I don't remember the last time we were in a position to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Brown from last week. I think maybe he could possibly be a little bit unlucky, a little bit unfortunate, but I mean, the positive side of that is I think Marvin Johnson is a better suited player for that position. So it's good to see him start. The big kind of question for me is, which I'll kind of come on to whether I'm proven correct or proven incorrect with this one, proven wrong.
Okay.
Andre Green, him starting, especially after not a particularly good game against Charlton, I must say. That was providing him with the platform to repay the faith.
Because it's 8 players that were the same as the starting 11 from last week. Oh, no, 9 players that were the same as the starting 11 from last week.
Right, okay.
Yeah, the surprising one of those was Green. And then Cambery started, obviously, because
of Patterson and Brown, who replaced Shadipo, is replaced with Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was surprised to see Green getting another chance, because I thought he had a fairly underwhelming first game, and we do have, presumably, we've got players chomping at the bit really to get involved in that midfield. But I am starting to feel quite, that does feel like a nice. The back 4 feels like it could develop into a very solid unit. Peacock, Farrell continues sort of, adds another good showing to his his list of rather good performances. Really earned the Pims o'clock after this one, chappos.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I'm to kind of just jump ahead, maybe. I think that's probably like the end of, like, I've been really happy with how settled the defense is looking.
Yeah, and then you've got a midfield that I think it's not perfect, but I think you can see the beginnings of some really interesting options in between those 3 players as they get more time to gel together and build together. But it's nice to have a bit of consistency there. I mean, the worry with having lots of new signings is you just end up, it almost becomes like, shuffle on Spotify, and you're just sort of spiraling through things not without much sense to it. But the idea that we have a fairly solid, like, okay, these guys are going to get picked more often than not, and then it's a couple of changes or a couple of tweaks. Wingers by their nature tend to be fairly kind of transient and mercurial in their ways. So having different options to swap in and out there is useful. But you can potentially, I think, we'll probably add a centre forward to that list of players that are going to start if they're fit. More, that's going to be the first choice. So you're looking at a fairly solid, probably 9 out of those positions. But yeah, as we touched on, Green was the surprise for me, getting another try at things. Johnson was given a start on that opposite flank. And so the first half was in, I think we're going to see a lot of football like the first half of this game. Yeah. And that's fairly inconsequential, but lots of, like, it's really hard work to kind of have such a half where so little happens, but both teams are working really, really hard to make sure nothing happens, to close down spaces, to keep shape. I really noticed, particularly the defence, trying desperately hard to keep their shape, and not getting dragged off into other positions and leaving gaps behind them very often. Obviously, there's a touch of straight from pre-season into the season, and they've had 6 weeks of being drilled into keeping that shape. But I think at times it was fairly impressive to see just how well they held that. And the idea seems to be that other players come back then and help out defensively, so that we don't end up breaking that structure, and if that holds up, that's a pretty seems a pretty good way to work things as well. There'll be tougher tests for them defensively, but yeah. So I mean, so there's a bit of role reversal here, Luke. So I am not pretentious enough to sit at the game and make minute by minute notes. So I can sort of feed into things and sort of add maybe add a little bit of perspective here and there. But do you want to kind of do you have some sort of do you have some events listed?
I do, though it was a little bit it's a little bit kind of patchy here in terms of, like, I remembered and recalled also, when you get to see some footage, Rich, of some live League One matches, you will enjoy the swanky new League One replay graphics which they're using.
Ooh.
We also have some kind of live editing that was a little bit suspect. There was a good moment on the fourth. We got the corner, and then they went to replay it, and then they curtailed it to actually go back to the action, which was a good work.
Okay,
that was the one where Lewis Wing took a really long corner to the back stick, and I think it was Iorfa who kind of tried to kind of take a first bite of the cherry by heading, and then it bobbled, and then he just kind of plonked it straight at the Donny keeper.
Yeah, that
was the first thing I kind of noted. I noted that it's a pretty frantic paced game for those kind of opening.
Definitely. So what did you think? I'm intrigued, and I'm sorry I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but what did you think of Andre Green, particularly the first half?
I can't really remember, because I want to say overall I think I was quite impressed with Andre Green as a whole. You know, I thought it was a game of a lot of strong, decent performances, and I thought that Green was good largely.
And he sort of won. He won that free kick well and bravely on the edge of their box, which produced the yellow card. Actually, his chance, I'm saying first half, but his best chance was in the second, wasn't it? I think
that was the one. Yeah,
when he kind of it came off the keeper's. He sort of beat the keeper, but he hit the keeper's body, kind of thing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, well, let's kind of get onto that of within the order of which we're going through.
Yes, apologies.
No worries. Wing did some great work in the middle to win the ball in the 18th. You know, he fed it to Baz, who won that free kick 30 yards out. I think that was one of the ones which Bannan fired over. Bannan absolutely just wanged it over pretty much, didn't he?
He did. He seemed to take all of the free kicks. Is that right?
Yeah, no, because there was a second one which we can kind of come on to when we get to it. But just to jump ahead to that, you know, it was basically on the commentary we had Rob O'Neill and John Pearson. They were like, "Oh, I think Wing's going to take this one," and then Bannan just stepped up and then curled it over from a different, angle and slightly different
much closer to that second one.
It was, but still, it was a bit like, why are we? Oh, Barry, why are we letting you take free kicks?
But maybe I'm thinking it's a bit like an M. Night Shyamalan. You know, I think it's Signs.
Sure,
it's Jacqueline Phoenix. You know. Swing away.
Jacqueline Phoenix.
Jacqueline Phoenix. My name's Jacqueline Phoenix. This is a Limmy.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm glad
I lost the best 3 years of my life to heroin. And the next 3 years on the methadone designed to get me off it. But no, the whole, swing away. So maybe all of those free kicks were sighters that when he had the moment for skipping ahead, spoiler alert for, this weird dance that we do here. But for the goal, maybe the fact he'd had those two previous efforts from a similar range just meant he had his eye in when it mattered.
Maybe so. Speaking of speaking of great shots, I mean, Barlow for Donny, he had a shot in the 18th minute, looked absolutely destined for the top corner. And like I was really impressed with. I think Donny looked a very good side, but I definitely within that pomp of the first half, it seemed like we really lost control of any kind of fabric from the game from 20th minute through to 40th, pretty much kind of solidly. There was a large chunk of the first half which I would say looked very Doncaster Rovers shaped. And great long ball forward, and then he just cuts inside to let fly. Yeah, they were looking a really decent side. It was a nice kind of start from.
That was a good effort.
Yeah.
They also, I can't quite remember where it fell time wise, but it was kind of like an inside out ball that found, I think, Kuka in the box.
Yes. That's the one where he kind of lunge stepped it forward and then kind of
Yeah.
put over the bar. Yeah, and that seemed like that was the only moment I think in the game that I think felt like a real let off for Wednesday. Like
Yeah,
I thought they looked a very decent side. I thought they played it around very well. You know, they seemed to expand and kind of shift the ball around. John Bostock, surprisingly, having a really good game for them.
he looked a player today, didn't he? I mean, people were pretty horrified at being linked with him in this summer,
But he seemed to be kind of a deep line playmaker, though.
Mm.
You know, which was kind of strange going on. Seemed to be sold to us as like a number 10, you know, in the hole, kind of just outside the box player. So it was interesting to see him playing there for Donny. It looked really, really good, I must say.
Yeah. And then I thought both their wingers looked decent as well.
They did indeed, but that was the only moment that I felt that they really carved us open.
Yeah.
I must say. Actually, there was another chance they had, which was I think it was a smart stop from Peacock Farrell.
Yeah.
But they just looked like they were really had the game in between their teeth, and then it was just I think we're very blessed with the nature of the halftime coming when it did, and the ability to get in and make a kind of few kind of tweaks. And I think that was the big thing that seemed to kind of shine through from Moore's kind of post-match interview today. He seemed to kind of comment on basically the need to just kind of push like 5 meters up the field on Doncaster. But we didn't have a control of the first half at all. What else was there? There was that thing. Green had a very short cross for Canberry, but it was just kind of stood up a bit too high.
Yeah, a bit too high, wasn't it?
And then the Donny keeper kind of claimed that one. I thought we were a little bit fortunate with some of the officials because on the 39th minute, I thought we got some benefits. Johnson seems to be very good at winning some soft free kicks. He picked one from a ball from Baz. And I just noticed hopefully Baz doesn't take the free kick. And he fucking does Tosh again. But I think it was really just that was kind of only really what we kind of had chance-wise. And then coming into the end depth of that first half, that was the decent save from Belly Peacock Farrell. So that was the second point. And it was Bostock cycling it out.
Yeah.
And they kind of worked it across. And then in on the angle, the player had a sharp shot at the near post. And BPF got down pretty well to kind of push it away.
It's the sort of one, in fact, Brentford, their first goal against Arsenal was a similar sort of range. I think that came through bodies, so it was a bit harder for the goalkeeper, but that sort of sharp, quick finish, low to the near post can cause keepers a fair bit of trouble. But yeah, he dealt with it really well. Very no nonsense from Peacock Farrell.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I think I probably wasn't as impressed. I thought Bostock stood out, and I thought the wingers looked decent. I don't think we were helped. Probably our game. It felt like our game plan was to go down the flanks first half, and I don't think we did it particularly well. But it also left the fullbacks exposed. So I thought Palmer and Hunt really struggled first half. And that's where a lot of their openings sort of seemed to come from, or at least that's how they kind of like worked their way further up the field against us and then tried to come through the middle. I don't know. It was interesting. I also thought I was trying to work out what Adeniran's job was first half, because I thought our midfield three, I don't know, it just wasn't clicking, and maybe it was the fact that if Moore's talking about the fact that we were too deep, maybe there's just too much ground for them to cover, because obviously pushing up sort of compacts the midfield. So maybe that was it. But I thought it just felt like wing was too deep, and it felt like Adeniran was having to defend all the time and wasn't able to get on the ball, or he was always seemed to be out of position when we were on the ball. So yeah, there just was a few things that just didn't quite click first half. But as you say, Donny did a good job of making us feel fairly uncomfortable. But thankfully, defensively, we were pretty solid and didn't give them many chances.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I thought it was a very commanding performance in the centre back pairing from Iorfa and Hutchinson. I remember in the first half, Iorfa did like a diving defensive header, which I was really impressed with. Wasn't something I noted down, but again, those two seem to be looking to develop quite a formidable partnership. And then I think the other partnerships that kind of come alongside with having Hunt and Palmer and those, if that's an established back five, then I'd be very happy if we see a lot of them for the majority of the season, really.
Yeah, I think the only danger is Iorfa is so. I mean, but I think in flashes you see that Bannan is a step above this level, but Iorfa is so far. I think I've really got no doubt Iorfa is probably a Premier League level centre back. I think the danger is he's finding it so easy at the moment in League One that he's almost, I don't know, like he's almost trying to be too clever and too, like, if there are mistakes that come from Iorfa at this level, it will be from him getting a little bit full of himself, I think, because there was a moment second half where they just sort of headed it. It was just a long header from their centre back, and he knew that his man next to him was offside, so he sort of waited for the offside to be given, and because it wasn't, he didn't go and get the head. He could have just headed it straight back, basically, or chested it down or whatever. But because he was just, I don't know, because he felt like he knew what was going on in the situation, he let it go over his head, waiting for the offside to be wrong. And obviously, the man next to him sort of played him a little bit and just didn't move. And it meant that one of their other players, one of the wide players, was then able to run in behind and get on the ball. And like it ended up giving them a half chance. And it was almost just from Iorfa trying to be a bit too cute. I think he did manage to close down the chance of it in the end, because he's so quick and strong that people just crumble around him. But it was one of those moments where you're like, there could be a bit of Icarus about Big Dom in this league, because it's pretty easy meat for the boy. He's just so athletic and he's so quick and so strong. He can just do whatever he likes. So does that take us to half time?
That's pretty much it for half time. Yeah, I wanted to kind of ask you and just kind of check in with you what your thoughts were for your first half at Hillsborough.
First half at Hillsborough.
And goodness how Nuzzle.
I know. Well, somehow they've got slower at serving people. That was the first thing I noticed when I got in. It's incredible how slowly you can hand somebody a bottle of Carling and still look surprised every time that you need to take the lid off. But I got in just as people were hi-hoing. So that was great to be part of once again. I thought I think probably shared similar thoughts. I thought they maybe shaded the first half. Certainly they'd had the best chance. I thought that sort of volley, although he was stretching, I think that will be one of those where when he watches the tape back, he'll be a bit annoyed that he didn't know quite how good the chance was for him, because I don't think he needed to take it. I think he probably could have controlled the ball or tried to control it.
And had a second to get something off. Yeah.
So I think he will probably be frustrated watching that back, that he didn't do better with it. So that was definitely the best chance of the half. So
I guess the difficult thing of looking over this is, like, I thought they were a decent side. I thought they played around well. I thought they played expansively. They had some good moves.
Yeah.
Bostock did well for them. Yeah, I agree with you for the wingers. Maybe a bit of a letdown in the striker departments. The rest of them seem kind of like, a team cobbled together from kind of journeyman League One to play in a fairly decent kind of outfit and mentality. So I think that's impressive. I think I was also listening to Praise or Grumble after the game you did, and they had a Donny fan who said, "I think we were worth a point." I
Nonsense.
don't know. I don't
Nonsense.
know. I think we were the team who looked like we could expand and get going with the pace of it and look dangerous. And I never felt that from Doncaster. So
No.
I don't think you can ever look at a game like this and say, oh, we played some nice stuff. QED, we
They
deserve
could
points
only
from
have,
this.
yeah.
You know,
Were they at
we
the
deserve
game,
to
or were they
share the
listening on
spoil.
Radio Sheffield? Because Radio Sheffield have to make it sound even.
Maybe that was the case. Yeah. There seems to be a lot of criticism. I think you may have heard it from them to say they seem to be a little bit frustrated with their ownership and not splashing the cash on some signings.
I heard a bit of that, yeah.
Yeah. And they seemed to, apparently, they were a bit under strength. They only put like 6 subs as opposed to 7.
That always Crimea River. There's youth team players you could have put on that bench. Don't be silly.
And now we're going back to the normal of only 3 subs, which isn't terrible. I guess the
No.
interesting thing, the thing that I didn't capture from last week was, and one thing I want to bring up was, so we only made 2 subs last week, of which one was could well have been a concussion substitute, which we're allowed to have 2. So we could have made 4 substitutes last week. I was frustrated last week we didn't make more changes, to try and see if we could get something out of that last week.
Yeah. Intriguing. I hadn't picked that up at the time. Yeah, I thought it was interesting though. The funny thing though is that they were moaning, the Donny fans, saying, "Oh, we're only got frees and loans. They won't spend on transfer fees."
Well, I was laughing at that as well, because I think that's the fabric for a lot of football clubs.
Yeah, but I mean, you know that signing free transfers is just as valid, and quite often you can get a better player as a free player than you would buying someone. Weird. Anyway, yeah. What an odd existence it must be to be a Donny fan, really.
And again, a team who I thought looked decent today, and I think, oh, this should be okay. But they're probably hurting from the fact that they've got 0 from 6 right now.
Yeah.
I don't know, but then it's early days, so who knows?
The thing is, it's that tactical fouling thing, because I was moaning about that with the game last week, but like they got their yellow cards in that were all well earned, like that. The one that Rowe took he was blocking Green from running straight through on goal, and the one that Noyle took, the other winger, Johnson was through on goal. I mean, I think there's an argument that could have been a red. He's only probably, I mean, they're quite far out. That was the Bannan free kick that was very close to hitting the top corner. So I know that they were kind of all the way out past the kind of the semicircle at the edge of the area. But I mean, really, he's hoiked him down because he's lost him. And it would have been 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So I think he was fairly lucky to maybe only get a yellow in that position. And those are 2 yellow cards that are blocking clear goal scoring opportunities. And I think, yeah, I just don't buy that there was anything here for Donny today. I don't think they were good enough. I don't think they showed enough cutting edge. They look a decent unit, but
no, but that's I think maybe that's more of a I think that's more of a commentary about football fans, where it's like, we can stroke it around and look nice, so therefore we've played well.
Yeah,
but it's still a game about scoring more goals than the opposition, and they didn't.
Matters.
Yeah, and I mean, they can look okay in that, but then if they're not bothering the goal mouth, then there's effectively no point, really.
No.
Yeah. So yeah. I think that kind of sums up the umbrage I took with that comment. Yeah.
Take up the umbrage.
Speaking of actually having shots on target, should we go into the second half and on the 49th minute? Only when Lewis wanged it.
Oh,
what a shot that was.
It was a very, very decent effort. It was one of those where the keeper, I think, was almost being a bit lackadaisical about it, and then had to sort of panic to make sure with it, because it was
So you're saying that a little bit like little Ralphie Wiggum, where if you play it in freeze frame, you can see the moment when his heart breaks. If you freeze frame the Donny keeper's is it Pontius Dahlberg's face, you can see the moment when he actually thinks, "Oh shit, got to do something about this
he
one."
poos his pants. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, that was a lovely effort. He's an interesting character, as Wing, because he's big and strong, and sometimes looks so commanding,
Mm.
and then other times he's just frustratingly non-committal. It's a bit
Just shrinks a little. Yeah.
yeah. But I think we can see the moments that are going to be his, and obviously that was a really good chance. He was very close to making that count. But I thought when we were when we were playing well, when we were coming forward, that's where you start to see the best of Wing. And I thought we were a very different side once we got a goal, and him more so than anybody really being a part of that change. It was very nice to see. He had a lot of good touches after we went ahead.
So a delectable, delicious shot. The opposite came with the coverage, which they basically went, "Oh, we're not going to play the highlight of this because looks like Bannan's going to take the corner." Bannan took the corner and it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then they went back and replayed the corner, and I'm like, "No, it's not what I want to see." So eventually they did show the shot again, which is fantastic. I'm sure I'll have to just wait until the highlights come out and I can have a nice chew down on that again, because that was a great hit from Lewis Wang.
Lewis Wang.
And
Good
then
stuff.
Lewis Wang in the thick of things 3 minutes later with a foul on Wednesday, pretty kind of inconsequential. But Lewis Wang incredibly sharp, incredibly on it. Gets the ball down, strokes it out into Green and acres of space.
Yeah.
Green kind of runs down, jinks his way beautifully past the fullback, who kind of overcommitted himself running in one direction.
Yeah.
Did so well to guard the space. Wondered how good his finish was. That kind of looked a bit direct at the keeper, I want to say. So you were saying the keeper, because I couldn't tell from my angle. I didn't know whether it looked like it was direct down the keeper's throat, but I didn't know whether it was, I thought it was kind of covered, come back and then cleared aside from one of the on-rushing kind of Donny centre-back, I think it would have been.
Yeah.
You're saying it actually went off the keeper.
I mean, I'd have to, my distinct memory is it coming off the keeper's ribs. And I suppose then it's how much do you, because obviously being a keeper in that situation, you're just trying to make yourself big and harder to beat. So that's why I was sort of saying, like, he almost kind of missed it because he didn't really do anything with his hands or his feet to save it. It just kind of like cannoned off his body, but he gets himself in a position to do it. He's made himself big, and like he's made the angle hard, difficult to think out, etc. But I thought, I mean, it was a very tight angle from Green. Maybe he could or should have cut back, but I don't know that anybody was there supporting him either, to be honest.
No, well, he was so kind of far away from the rest of his teammates, right?
Yeah.
It just seemed to be Wing and Green on that wavelength, and they were just
on a wavelength.
Yeah.
On a free kick tip. No, I like that. I like that quick thinking, because so often our free kicks are awful, and I do blame Bannan for that quite often, because he just wants possession, which I understand. I know why it's happening, but it means that quite often we don't take those chances. And it was nice to see Wing, and obviously the fair play to the ref for letting it run there, because if he'd been fussy, it wasn't exactly where the foul had taken place, but it is supposed to be favouring the attacking team, those situations. So no, nicely let it run. Green did well to sort of cut inside and make the chance for himself, but a tough finish, really. I'm looking forward to seeing it back. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to see the highlights yet, but yeah, it's interesting. So for Green's obviously I don't know if he had. Green did play till the 70th minute. He wasn't one of the first ones to come off. I think he had some really good moments. His best moments weirdly seem to be like running sideways. He seems to be really good at like running across the front of the box. And he had 2 or 3 really nice moments of that. One of them was halted by a good sliding tackle that he kind of didn't fancy getting entwined with. But yeah, I still don't. I remain a little bit unconvinced by him. But I think if he gets to start the next game, I think he's kind of earned a position more than he did.
I definitely think, definitely in a much better position coming into the next game.
Yeah.
Whenever it seems to be. I'm curious what's going to happen midweek, because I'm very aware that we have got a lot of players who haven't had any minutes, and there's a quick turnaround time, which we probably won't get a lot of in this division, thanks to, I think, things being spaced out of international breaks. So yeah, I'm curious if there's going to be like a wholesale change, or is it just going to be, in my mentality, I'd almost play like a kind of cup side against Fleetwood. And it's a league and it's important. It's a home game. But I think there's a lot of great players for us that we signed who are not getting a run out, not getting the minutes. And I think what better time to do that than that? That's my mentality anyway.
I mean, that's what I always do on FIFA and Pro Evo.
Exactly, right? Yeah. But then you also have the hidden advantage of being able to play them with the level of quality you play the other players, because you're controlling every single one of them.
Yes.
So until we get that technology,
then controlling all of them in the same way.
You know, we have to wait a bit longer for Big Daz to chew on his toggles and get his PlayStation controller in his hands. You know.
I think realistically, you've got the other kind of orthodoxy in this position is that you if you win the game, you keep your place. So I think there's room for some changes, because obviously we made 3 changes at 0-0. So you can argue all 3 of the players that came off weren't involved in a win, although obviously they did play for more than an hour of that win. So there's room for discussion and debate there. But I would be hugely surprised if we don't see the majority of that team
that finish the game
again.
Yeah.
But I do tend to agree. Keeping people fresh and keeping injuries down would happen if we didn't insist on playing the same 11 twice in 4 days. But it just isn't the done thing, and so much of football is the done thing or not the done thing. And if we lost, he would get absolute pelters for making all the changes.
Yeah. 59th minute, Palmer made an absolutely insane run that kind of mazed his way into the middle. He kind of they cycled it round, and then that was Bannan to Johnson down on the wing. That's when he did it over, and Canberry probably with the best chance he's had for the last 2 games, rose and headed it over in a true kind of very Sheffield Wednesday tall striker fashion.
Straight at the keeper, but also straight over the keeper.
That's the one, yeah.
Even if he'd hit the target with it, it would have been a bad shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
And that was the last we saw from Florian Canberry.
He did enough early on in the first half to get a chant, which seemed to be the Thomas Thierry song, and really confused a lot of the people around me.
Florian Canberry is that what they say?
Yes.
Right.
Maybe even Florian Canberry, like that. But yeah, like the person in front of me sort of really looked around and were like, "Have you lost your mind?" No, it must have been Florian Canberry. Yeah, that must have been it.
What did you think of Canberry this game? Because that was the last thing he did on the pitch. I don't remember a great deal of his play. I remember a few moments I think he looked okay, but again, I feel like I'm being generous by saying that. Like, I'm going to be honest.
He is a mystery wrapped in a riddle, wrapped in a question mark. Like he looks surprisingly quick 1 second, and then slow as a tugboat the next, and then he'll be strong as an ox, and then fall over his own feet under very little pressure. He looks composed and plays a really clever touch, and then he flicks it straight out of play with no need.
Yeah.
Like I cannot work him out. He might be terrible, and he might be really good, or although probably he's somewhere in between, which is why we've
constantly humming in between the two posts, right? Yeah.
What's the Smith song "Oscillate Wildly"? Like,
yes.
I just don't know, because there was he had a good moment right towards the end of the first half where he got inside of he absolutely played Williams and got the goal side of him, and you're like, right, he's just gonna charge at the goal now and have a really good chance, and he just sort of seemed to like flip, like almost do a cartwheel without his arms out. And I don't think Williams touched him enough to make that happen. I think it almost just spontaneously did some gym. It was really weird. And then he had like he was played through for a chance on his left foot. And I thought, oh, he's just going to I've seen the YouTube clips. What he does here is he'll just get a little toe to it and Bob's your uncle. But he didn't get anywhere. He didn't get anywhere near kicking it because he just seemed to go so slow after it. I just don't know, and maybe we'll never know. Because it was sort of night and day when Gregory came on for him. I thought Gregory was working off scraps, but really looked like he really made a hearty meal of the scraps. It was like Chopped, if you've ever seen that American cooking show.
Yeah.
We've got 3 bits of corn, a mushroom from last week, and a piece of bread, and he sort of fashioned it into some amazing French toast. What did you think of Camberry?
Yeah, I think I kind of said I thought he had some moments, and I think I said I could say he's being okay to be generous, but I was a little bit surprised at listening to Praise of Grumble and hearing some people speak very well of him.
He had a really poor couple of moments where there was 2 throw-ins in quite quick succession. Second half, where it was thrown to his feet. It was thrown to his feet by Jack Hunt, and then he missed Jack Hunt. And then he went over to the other flank for a throw-in from Johnson from Palmer, and he missed Palmer. And that happened within about a 5-minute stretch where he just kicked the ball directly out of play under just with no need to, twice in a row. Yeah.
I mean, next time he gets on the away team coach to go away with Wednesday to wherever we're playing, so whichever DOS team we're going to play, we're going to be away at going to be away at Morecambe or something like this. Maybe he could listen to Natasha Bedingfield's Unwritten and give himself a feeling, a nice. The rest, you can do the rest. The rest is unwritten, Florian.
Very good.
But
no compromise to hide behind.
And I definitely think there's a lot more to come from him. I don't know what it is of. It's not like I'm seeing any great early promise that I think is the seed to grow into, the tree of a Sheffield Wednesday career. I don't know. And it's early doors, so I'm fine to say that. I'm going to hold judgment, but I'm definitely going to say from the last 2 games, this isn't it, Florian. This isn't what we need from you.
I think there was a headline, maybe it was in the Star, of something like, there's much more to him than just being a target man. And it's like, well, you'd hope so, because he is not a target man. I think I know that much about him from watching him. I don't think he's a target man.
Is that just said because he's tall? Is that the mentality?
I mean, he's not even that tall.
How tall is he?
I think he's 6 foot plus, but he doesn't look tall. He doesn't play tall. Like some people just like.
He's a bit Tom Lee's, the world's smallest, tallest man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or even smaller, Kieran Lee, the 6'2" Adonis.
Kieran Lee is 6'2".
No, but his thing on the his thing on the Wednesday, his profile on the Wednesday website said for the longest time that he was 6'2". It was a running gag. He is 6'2", by the way. Florian Cambery is 6'2" as well.
He's the same height as Kieran Lee actually is.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But I wonder what he might look like as in a partnership. I think he might be quite good. I think he likes to get,
but we're not
get a bit of space and try and work in behind.
We don't seem to be playing with the formation to kind of afford such a thing right now, though. You know, like I'm really excited for the centre mid three, whoever that is, whether it's right now it's Bazban, Den, and Lewis Wing, who I can't do the same thing that I've done for Barry Bannan and Dennis Adeniran. Wang.
Well, but there will be different, there will be other days. There's got to be an element of horses for courses. And there's going to be games that we're chasing, and maybe we do want to put two front men on. And I wonder if playing alongside a Gregory or a Patterson, we actually then see the best of Cambery or Cambery. But yeah,
But then it just seems like we've got two lummoxes up front, really.
He's not even a good lummox.
Not even a good lummox. Yeah. So anyway, I was glad to see Gregory come on at that point. That was the 60th minute mark, the international substitute hour. I was disappointed to see Johnson come off because I thought he was doing well, but I was there thinking I wondered if it was, a bit of tiredness.
I thought it was a good change. My jury are out on Marvin Johnson.
Really? Okay.
I think he might be a lazy boy. Defensively.
You mean he's a luxury reclining chair?
Well, yeah, yes, yeah.
Chair magazine called him Sit of the Year.
Sit of the Year, yeah. I just noticed a trait in him, and I remember Ken Wynne-Jones used to have this, but you were allowed to do it if you're Ken Wynne-Jones. But defensively, he has a look round before he does any running. He has a look round to see if somebody else is going to do it, and then he runs if nobody else is. And it caught us out twice, and he also let the ball run through him twice when he could have just stuck a foot out and stopped them. I worry about. I think he's a liability defensively. And I didn't see enough offensively to make me think he was worth it. But they're still early. I'm not kind of same with Cambery. I'm not. This is not the final verdict on any of these players. But early doors, I was a bit. My whelmometer was underpowered for Marv. I've got to say, and I thought we saw Jaden Brown immediately have the sort of impact I would have liked. I would have liked to have seen from Johnson, but maybe he did the work. Maybe he did the hard work and wore him out. I don't know.
Brown is being a real surprise.
Yeah,
I'm really pleased with what I'm seeing from him. Yeah,
I think he's a bit slower than I thought he was going to be, Johnson, and then his first touch I thought was a bit poor as well. I don't know. Is he a technician or is he a knock it past them and run around them? And I don't know that he's either particularly.
He's either of those two things, right? But interesting.
We'll see. There's plenty of time. We'll get to know all the ins and outs of Marvin Johnson.
63rd minute, Lewis Wang adjudged to a foul Bostock. I said never happened. Didn't happen.
That's interesting.
I did not think that was a foul at all.
Because they made a fuss of it. Bostock, didn't they?
Bostock made an absolute meal of it, yeah.
Like he'd been murdered.
Yep. And there was a nice free kick in a promising position.
First, and then he rolled around enough that the ref gave it.
Oh, there we go. You said 3 good changes. I mean, I like there's 2 changes there. The first 2, then the next one comes to Byers for Green was a strange one for me.
A strange change, but a very effective.
Okay.
I think the whole game turned with Byers coming on.
How so?
That's when we started playing further forward. Byers was moving the ball really quickly. I liked Adeniran in the. I thought he pushed up and replaced Green really well. I mean, he's just got legs for days. So I mean, pretty amazing to play an hour of a match as a pretty full-on midfielder and then get pushed out on the wing and not look out of place really. He is an impressive specimen. It's Dennis Adeniran. I just thought, I thought Byers just immediately, I felt there was a comfort and a confidence. He owned that kind of position just in front of the back four, and that meant that Wing and Bannan could play further forward and not worry as much about what they had to do defensively. And obviously, he got the assist. He played the ball to Bannan for his goal. And I know there's assists and assists, but it was the pace of the ball that made things easy for Bannan. And I think when the ball's played to you at that pace as well, somebody good like Bannan, it aids your shot because it's kind of like, that you're redirecting rather than having to put everything on it yourself. See, this is where, I've just noticed with Adeniran's goal on who scored, there's not an assist. And
interesting.
But they do that, isn't it? Because it touched. So we should talk about the goal, shouldn't we?
Let's talk about the first goal.
So Bogle came. It's worth mentioning. Bogle came on, and almost instantly, I thought had a wonderful chance to score from that corner. Seemed to have a free header. I don't know whether we hadn't decided to mark him properly or whether Iorfa was caught out by how tall he was or whatever. But he seemed to just then have a free header from that corner and thankfully just completely missed the goal. But then we made our final change of bringing on Byers. Just a gorgeous goal. I can't remember who played it into Byers.
No, neither do I.
I can't remember if it was Palmer or Brown, but it was somebody on that left-hand side. Byers squared it across for Bannan, and then Bannan just so sumptuously curled it into that top corner.
It just seemed it was such a great, amazing finish. But I mean, like, just exactly what the game needed.
Yes,
but it seemed like the most casual curl. It was like he was lifting a through ball.
Yeah.
The way he kind of hit it, like, it's incredibly deceptive to see where the power comes from such a ball, from how it looked like he hit it.
I honestly think part of it was the pace of pass from Byers. I think it meant he could just sort of steer it. Like it happens, you see it more with headers. But like a kind of lofty header means that the striker or whoever's heading it towards the goal has to put everything on themselves. Whereas if you absolutely ping one in, they just have to kind of point that momentum somewhere. And it was almost that sort of finish for Bannan because he just had to just sort of sand wedge it and it curled into that far corner.
Yeah.
It was really lovely. Really, really lovely finish. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned the passing because I've thought that with Bannan for a long time. It's weird how accurate his passing is. And then when it comes to shooting, he completely loses his mind. And it maybe psychologically, it would be better for him to think about passing it into the goal. Like you're not taking a shot, you're just hitting another pass. It's just that this is where you're aiming your pass. And maybe that's a way to kind of soothe him and ease him through this. Obviously, at some point a goal sort of attacked him as a child and he's terrified of them. But if he passes it in, maybe that's the way forward.
Lovely.
And we hit him with the old 1-2 punch.
We did indeed. And double down from Den.
Absolutely. But this is one of those, I think you can kind of see, I think we're going to be a team that is good at being 1-0 up, which we have not been for a good couple of years. Because all of a sudden the spaces are bigger and we've got the players to pick those spaces and we've got the players to run in behind, and all of a sudden you've got Barry Bannan on the ball and you've got Jaden Brown making a run in behind a tired fullback who's already on a yellow, and it sort of writes itself. But a decent cross from Brown. He had enough
Very
time
much
to
so. Yeah.
look up and set himself, and he picked out a man. But I think the fact it's touched a defender on its way through to Adeniran is why he's not got an assist.
Well, for the keeper,
Was
palmed
it
on,
keeper?
right?
Maybe it was the keeper.
Yeah, it was like feathered on from Dahlberg. It was
That's right.
Really,
you're right. Yes, yeah.
Cammy Dawson's really going to enjoy watching that one back.
Oh, I was so pleased for him.
Mm.
So great for him to get a goal in front of the Kop and sort of tick that off his list as well. I could see him getting a few goals.
Well, that's the thing. This is the interesting thing to say. He's a player with legs for days. We kind of think of him as this all-action holding midfielder. Being the young kind of player who can do what Massimo Luongo possibly can't really do anymore because he's traction mass. But put him in a different role and putting him in just finding that pocket of space to just arrive, almost Kieran Lee-esque, really. Well,
there's a touch of that, definitely.
Fictional 6'2" man that used to play for us who plays for Bolton now. Did you notice, just looking around the division, Bolton are on 2 points with 6 goals and 6 against because they had 2 free draws for the first 2 games.
Wow.
That's
no, I hadn't noticed that, but that's quite the start.
It's an intriguing little start to the stat I've got there. But I know, just wonderful, great work from Brown just to get to the byline and just did exactly what you need him to do. To put it across. Yeah, great cross. And then he's there just in the right position, a little kind of stamping off the post. That kind of pace, I think, that was coming in the ball and how he kind of reacted to it just seemed to bamboozle like the Doncaster defenders who were around that as well.
Yes.
So fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he took it really well. And he had another chance later on. There was one laid back to him on the edge of the box that he had a fairly good effort with as well. I think it's that thing of just not being actively bad at shooting is quite a nice thing to see from a midfielder. I think we've got players who would never shoot or look terrified to shoot, or players who are bad at shooting and should never shoot. And Adeniran, maybe it's just a youth thing. Nobody's told him he's not supposed to be good at this yet, or he's not supposed to be good at this ever. So he's just I shoot, I have a shot. That's one of the things I do. I do all these things.
Got the belief, probably more so, he's a very able player.
Yeah.
But it seems like more of the belief is there to kind of outweigh the, some of the limitations in his game to just be I can go there. I can do that. Why not? I can get in around the box. I can play on the wing for you. I can hold it in midfield. I can get up and around that. I can play the number 10 role. And just fantastic. So, and that's what he kind of said afterwards. That was a fantastic. Have you seen his post-match interview?
I've not.
With the Wednesday media, but he's got an absolute diamond of a winning smile.
Yes.
And he just seemed absolutely made up and just beside himself with what happened today. But really, really pleased for him. Really pleased that he did that for himself, B, for us, but I think also for that relation with the fans.
Yes.
It felt like a big foundation building block in his Sheffield Wednesday career and building that the first home league game, Wednesday fans back at Hillsborough in numbers, and he does that in front of a Kop. Magic.
I think I think fans are just going to absolutely love him.
Yeah.
I thought that within 10 minutes.
Well, we Wednesday fans, we naturally love a athletic cruncher in the middle of the park, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And there's quite a few of those historically that we kind of look back on. Maybe a kind of not the same player, but maybe a kind of in terms of the fans kind of connection with him and the player on the pitch. Maybe another Semedo for this League One campaign.
Semedo's a good call. I think Colin Palmer's not a bad
Yep, I was thinking of him as well. Yeah.
Comparison to draw. Certainly in build, he's much more like a Palmer. Obviously, not he's got a long one. If he has anything like the career that Carlton Palmer had, he'll be.
And the more anemic, paler of those three things to add on, James O'Connor.
James O'Connor. I haven't seen him clapping skills yet, so maybe
Wednesday, different gravy podcast favorite, James O'Connor. So 2-0.
Yeah, lovely to see. There was some. So we did praise Donny, and we've got to giveth with one hand and take away with another. They were time wasting from the 10th minute onwards. And there was some of it was absolutely ridiculous. Like, I think on 3 or 4 occasions they stole a whole half of the pitch on a throw-in, and the ref for some reason didn't challenge them on it. Dolberg was taking sabbaticals from his career as a footballer between taking goal kicks. Absolutely ridiculous. And I love when those teams get it thrown in their face when it comes to losing, and then there's not very much time left in this game. I wonder why. But they also the worst of all of the semi-cheating stuff that they did was, I don't know if you picked up on this on the coverage, but basically there was a pause after. So when we scored our first goal, weirdly somebody let off a flare in the Doncaster end. I don't know why. You're just excited.
Yeah.
And then when we scored the second, a second flare ended up on the pitch. And there was a pause in play. Our players were just kind of in a huddle in the middle of our half, sort of chatting and kicking balls back and forth and doing a bit of jogging up and down. And I don't know how the ref, I mean, again, the ref, we're going to have to get used to bad referees, but the somehow it contrived that they ended up like kicking off before our players were back in position. So they like kicked it up the wing and set whoever it would have been, Galbraith, on a run up the wing. And they almost got a chance out of it. Thankfully, Hunt kind of closed him down and we stopped it. But it was just like, oh, you absolute tools. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we've had to stop the game because your stupid fans have thrown a flare on the pitch. And now you're trying to turn it into an advantage by sneaking off and taking the kickoff without anybody noticing. It just felt like, I mean, I don't know. As I say, I don't know how the ref let them get away with it, but it felt disgraceful in a way, a low-level disgraceful what they tried to do, like the sort of thing that you would be on, like What Happens Next, on something like Question of Sport, because it was, it just felt low. It was low. It was low class. It was scummy. It was a scummy thing they tried to do. And the fact that the Galbraith then sort of fell over his own feet and the ball ran out of play was really the least they deserved, and something worse should have happened to them. So yeah, a bit weird. But I did like the thought with the pyro being set off when we scored. Like that, probably a Donny fan in the 75th minute was thinking, are we going to get off home then? Are we? But might as well leave now and beat the traffic. And then one of the group going, "We've got me flare still," and well, just chuck it anyway,
Speaking of further bad refereeing decisions, Rich.
Yes, well, this is I don't know what happened with the penalty decision. Really, it didn't get shown again because obviously.
Well, it was a handball.
Yeah,
but it was also the softest handball I think I've seen in quite a while.
It did. It looked pretty soft. So apologies. Could you run me through? So the handball.
Yep.
Who handballed it? Was it Palmer?
I thought it was Hutch.
Okay, it was totally the other end of the pitch from me. So it just felt like chaos. And then they had
I think Palmer and Hutchinson were around each other, and I think Hutchinson was the one on the furthest left because he was centre.
Okay.
But the ball wasn't. It wasn't like it's like, oh, the ball is destined for someone's head in the middle of the box or going on target. You know, it was going fairly wide. Like it was a
Yeah.
bizarre decision for a penalty.
And then your man Bogle stands up to take it.
Mm. And tender is the post he struck the most.
Hey. Did Peacock Farrell didn't get a touch on it? It
I
just went
didn't think so. I thought it was cleanly onto the post. I think I heard some people seem to think that BPF got a touch on it.
Yeah, well, he was getting all the plaudits, but then I think you just kind of get plaudits where if somebody just beams it over, you get a pat on the back as the goalkeeper.
That's usually how it works. Yeah, cannoned off the post, pinged back straight to Bogle. Bogle couldn't control it. Yes. And then who was the Donny player who did the piss weakest follow-up I've ever seen? Apparently. That was dog shit. I'm like, that must have taken a touch off someone. I'm there thinking that must have taken a touch off Hutchinson. You know, when the Wednesday players rushing back to defend the penalty. And it's like, no, it was just wide and it was crap.
It was bad. It was bad.
So poor.
It's sort of like a screw shot in snooker. It had that sort of like fizzy quality to it. It was really terrible, but desperately bad technique. And then he was so embarrassed that he went off injured.
There you go.
He pulled his shame muscle and had to have a sit down.
Ruptured his shame CL.
Yes. So I think that's one of the things that showed. I don't know whether it's. I don't know how much to factor in the fact we didn't play a game midweek and they did, but we just looked the distinctly fitter team here. Because their right back went down moaning and cramping up. Close went down moaning and cramping up. Bostock went down moaning, cramping up towards the end. And our players just looked fine.
Yeah.
And Bostock at the end looked like a broken man. Like he looked like he'd lost a cup final. He was lying on his back in the middle of the pitch. It just looked like he'd given every ounce of himself in this effort to barely turn up at Hillsborough. Any other moments or thoughts to talk through?
I wondered with the further poor refereeing. I thought the referee was largely okay. I've seen worse. Probably a poor end to the game from his performance. And again, to add to that, not sure where the 6 pity minutes came from in terms of stoppage time.
Well,
is that thanks to the flare?
They've been doing so much time wasting. I don't know if you remember, there was one in particular where Gregory, we were sort of doing almost a holding it in the corner sort of thing. Gregory kicked it out and pointed to the linesman to say, "I've kicked it out," right by the corner flag there. And they took their throw in from the middle of their technical area, which is it's basically like a full third of the pitch further forward than they should have. And they just did that all the time. And the goalkeeper, the ref told him off for taking time, because I don't know, there was one moment when we had a shot. I think maybe it was after Canberry's header. He then had a nice big slug on his drink and was clacking his studs against the post, and then the ref told him off for wasting time. And he slowly rolled the ball to the other side of the penalty area before he took his kick. And the ref just didn't do anything. I mean, I think the ref was fine. I'd rather, out of the two things, I'd rather a less busy blow happy ref than an overly blow happy ref. But time wasting, I just have so little time for. I wish we would clamp down more on it, because this is what happens. You time waste like Billy-O, and then you get 6 minutes at the end to potentially try and get your way back into the game. I think if you're chasing the game, if you've time wasted and you're chasing the game, they should take the minutes off you. That would be good. If they go, do you know what? Actually, there's no minutes now because you've ruined it. You spoiled it for everybody. I'm taking the ball back home. It's mine anyway.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big. I know we had the cup game, but it doesn't really count. Nobody cares. First home game for a lot of these players. First home league game for Darren Moore, with the fans there, and a good solid win and another clean sheet.
Yeah, 3 in a row now.
3 in a row. It's a good habit to have. Any kind of star honorable mention, star men?
Clearly with the clean sheets, Bailey Peacock Farrell's been getting up in the morning in his at his boarding school and changing his sheets that often.
Well, I just have a tug in the shower and then the sheets are fine, actually.
Oh, Pim's the clock all around, lads.
Pim's o'clock. Do you know, so this is obviously the first time I've had the chance to see Peacock Farrell. And there's a notable shift. We are trying to play out from the back. We're trying to build from the back. We're passing within the box. We're doing that thing. We might get caught out sometimes doing that. I think there will be teams that are very effective and efficient at closing down, and we'll have to be, right on it in those games. This was not one of those games. But it's really nice to have a goalkeeper that passes a football, and not just short passes. When he has to kick it long, he actually means to kick it where he kicks it, Luke. Like, he sees a man in a Sheffield Wednesday shirt. Just hold your credulity for a moment, your incredulity
I'm
for a moment.
clutching my pearls as we speak.
He looks forward, right? And he sees one of those guys in a Sheffield Wednesday shirt. And what he says to himself is, I'm going to kick it to that man over there. And it goes almost exactly to where they're stood. And it's crazy stuff.
Rich, it'll never catch on.
No, I mean, I know someday he'll learn how to goalkeep properly, which is just kick it as hard as you can forward. And sometimes it'll go straight up in the air, almost go back over your own head. And sometimes it'll go straight out of play. And everyone can get angry at the player that's somehow supposed to know which one you're going to do this time. But no, there was 3 or 4 moments that were just, he was pressed. They'd got the squeeze right. They'd kind of cut down the options. So the only thing that was left was to play it long. And he actually played a pass to somebody. It was really nice to see. I loved it, Luke. Absolutely loved it.
Beautiful.
So, well, I think he's a very good chap. I just love I love Adeniran. I think he's going to be, fans are going to absolutely take him to their hearts. As you say, that big smile, $1 million smile, just such an engine on him.
Yeah,
I really did feel for him when he shifted out to the wing in the 70th minute, having run around in midfield all game. But he made it his own, and he grabbed a goal there, nearly got 2. What a lad! What a lad! Great. It's churlish to pick out a underperformer, isn't it, on a day like today? It's rude, if anything.
It's rude. It'd be really rude for me to say the underperformer of the game was Florian Canberry. Rude. So I guess I didn't say it, even though I just said. It's one of those things where I said, I was thinking of saying this, and then you just tell someone what you were going to say. So it's like you basically just told them anyway.
Yeah. Like one of those, like, I'm not being mean, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm just going to power through it and tell you something mean. So Den is your MOM.
My MOM. I did love Peacock Farrell's work. I thought the whole back four were really good, and I thought
back four was excellent.
Palmer really started to make some moves on that left hand side, which was really nice to see. But yeah, Canberry maybe. No losers though, by and large.
No, I really liked. I feel I've got to give a huge shout out to Bannan for his sandwich liftoff. You know,
yeah,
that really sent us into the stratosphere with that one.
did.
I like Green. Green was good.
Green was good.
The whole back four was decent. BPF was good.
As good, and Gecko almost said, Green is good.
He did. Yeah. No, great. What a great day. It's great to have a resounding kind of 2-0 win. And
come in.
I was almost getting ahead of myself and thinking about just getting on this podcast with you and around the 70th minute mark and being like, well, the goals will come, but it's good that we're keeping it tight at the back.
Yeah.
But we stuck at it. We played at some really decent levels. Some of the work in the middle, some of the footwork was just, it is just a cut above what we're seeing here. In terms of like the players with the technicians we have for this level, it's just huge.
It is, yeah. That the potential once that midfield three starts to really get those kind of telepathic connections with each other, the potential is really quite exciting, I think.
It is
because they're all so different, but they do complement each other rather well. Nice to be pleased of a Saturday. Nice to have an enjoyable one to talk through.
What is this emotion I'm feeling?
Yeah,
is it not a regret of the weekend thanks to Sheffield Wednesday?
What is this feeling called love? Is that the pulp song? Is that right?
It could be. Yeah, let's say yes. In the usual messy fashion, shall we end up the podcast with something that we're
let's do that.
I think that's about right. And then
in the usual messy fashion, let's go and join PSG. PSG to you all at home, and PSG to you, Luke.
PSG, everyone.
Pretty solid. Goodbye. Cheerio.
See you.
Which is disappointing because I did have an idea for a cold open, which is me going Adeniran, dun dun Adeniran, dun dun Adeniran, dun 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 dun.
We should go for that. It's more positive.
What's he gonna look like when Denden's put him on his backside? What's he gonna look like when Denden's put him on his backside?